I don't necessarily consider myself to be like a tough person or a mean person. Like now that I have developed a greater understanding of myself, I would say I'm very incredibly sensitive.
Okay.
You know, like my feelings get hurt, and then I get real, sad. I guess my feelings get hurt, then I get sad, and then as opposed to being sad, then I would rather be mad. You know, make that person
Gotcha.
pay for making me sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that I got into martial arts through the videos at Blockbuster, through my exposure, through my stepfather, and then through Pop Warner football is where I learned how to like bully other kids.
Gotcha.
And then I kept bullying other kids all the way till like today.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have a very special guest. He's a health and fitness enthusiast, a family man, a father of 3, a professional mixed martial arts competitor, and an entrepreneur. Please welcome to the podcast, Ivan Batinich.
What's up, Isaac? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure and an honor that you would consider to have me on your show. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I know we go back like what, a decade?
At least.
Yeah. So we go back a ways. For those who don't know, obviously nobody knows unless they know us, but we got to know each other on a professional indoor football team.
Right. The American Indoor Football Association, San Jose Wolves.
Yeah. It's a funny story because they were called the San Jose Wolves, but we played in Daly City, which was kind of crazy.
Cow Palace.
Yeah. So we got to know each other on the indoor football team. I was actually first I was like an intern, and then I became kind of like the director of football operations, which was just like a fancy way to say I do everything the GM doesn't want to do. You know what I mean? And you had gotten signed to the team, and you played or you practiced with us for a couple of times, and you were on the team or trying to get on the team as well.
Well, basically, I went to the open tryouts that were hosted at San Jose City College over here.
Yeah.
So initially, I went to the open tryout at San Jose City. I got invited back for the second open tryout at De Anza College. Then from the De Anza tryout, they invited me to the practices, and then basically I got signed to the team through the open tryout.
Yeah, which was a big deal because I think we had like 300 or plus people at that open tryout.
It was deep. It was highly competitive. It was just around the time that the movie about the Philadelphia Eagle guy had come out.
What was that? Was that the one with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, the Mark Wahlberg movie.
Yeah.
So they hosted Fulfill Your Dreams tryout for the team. We had there were guys who had been out of football for quite some time. I had just actually come back from playing at Washington State at the time, and had been training specifically to try to re-embark on a football journey, and as I was concurrently going to finish up my degree in kinesiology at Cal State East Bay.
Okay.
So I was a student at Washington State, injured my quad, came back to San Jose, kind of squandered my time for about a year or two in my perspective, and then got some information about the open tryout, and then just kind of took a leap of faith, I guess.
Yeah, and so you played at Washington State. Did you play there, or how long were you at Washington State for?
Well, so I'm local, so I went to Los Gatos High School. From there, I played football at West Valley College. I was a standout, honorable mention All-American linebacker. Got invited to train, or not to train, but got invited to Washington State, Pac-10 at the time. And shortly after my arrival, I tore my quad. I had ruptured my quad.
Oh,
so
wow.
I didn't play a single snap. I was on a scout team and, injured reserve.
Yeah.
So I spent a semester at Washington State and then drove home on my 22nd birthday.
Wow.
16 hours.
That's crazy. Yeah, a lot of times, they say when something doesn't work out, it's not really like a rejection. It's kind of like a redirection.
Yeah, detours.
I've had
a few detours.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Obviously, I'm from the Bay Area. You also grew up in the Bay Area. Whereabouts did you grow up?
Well, interestingly enough, we're here in Campbell, California. I grew up actually, if you were to take Campbell Avenue straight down to Dry Creek, or actually Dry Creek, which is a close by street over here,
Yeah.
I live within walking distance to where we are currently, or I grew up within walking distance from where we are. So I went to Los Gatos High School, Blossom Hill Elementary School, Fisher Middle School, but I grew up partially in Los Gatos, partially in San Jose by Bookson Elementary School.
Okay.
My mother and father were, they were separate, so I'm extremely local to where we are currently.
That's awesome. I actually went to Bookson for half of a year.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, because I grew up on the east side,
Mhm.
but since my parents didn't want me to get involved in the gangs and all
Right.
that, they sent me to private school. And there was only one private school in the entire east side of San Jose, and it was called Liberty Baptist.
Right.
But it went only up to 5th grade. So we moved halfway through the year from the east side to the south side, kind of like off of Meridian, kind of Cherry, that kind of area,
yeah,
right?
I'm familiar.
Yeah, so then I went to Bookson for like half a semester
That's cool.
or half a year, whatever they called it back then, right?
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with Bookson, right?
The school year.
Yeah, and that's crazy. So you grew up literally like a couple blocks away from here.
Yeah, I've spent most of my life in this area. I was born at Santa Clara Kaiser.
Okay.
When it was on Kylie, Santa Clara Kaiser on Kylie back in 1985.
So true Bay Area, South Bay kid.
South Bay native.
Yeah, South Bay native.
I've got lots of stories in lots of different places. They're just, I'm becoming overwhelmed with different anecdotal experiences.
So just a question. So are you only child? Do you have siblings?
I have three siblings. I've got my older sister. We share the same parents. Then my younger brother and sister. I've got a younger sister who's the next one down. And then my younger brother, we have the same mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of like in the middle, sort of?
I'm the youngest on one side, the baby.
So you're the baby on one side. Okay.
On one side of my family, I'm the baby, and on the other side, I'm the second oldest.
Oh, okay. That's kind of a unique dynamic there. Because
Right.
usually when you're the baby, like everything, like kind of spoiled.
Yeah, right.
But then when you're the oldest, you have all the responsibility. So what was that like, kind of being the youngest, but then also the oldest?
In retrospect, like I would say that being the youngest has its benefits, but so when I was 14, right, my father died. So then
sorry
I
to
just
hear
went to
about
spend time 100% with my mother and my stepfather, he married her when I was maybe 3 or 4. So he's been in my life, been a consistent person in my life for quite some time. But yeah, I was the youngest, kind of what I would perceive as spoiled. I kind of did whatever I wanted to. And then if I had like troubles over at my mother's house, I would go hang out with my father and do this and that. And then after he died, then I was over there. Then I had more of more expectations, to be more helpful and like be a leader in my family and like be a role model to my younger siblings. So I would say that being an older child of the children has its unique dynamic. You are supposed to, in my perspective, be a role model and be a leader to your like my younger brother. I want to be a leader or a role model or example.
So how much younger is he than you now?
He's 9 years younger than I am.
Oh, wow. So he must look up to you a lot then.
I mean, he's 26. I'm 20 or I'm 35. So, I mean, I would like to think I'm someone to look up to.
Probably growing up, though, he probably looked up to you a lot.
Yeah, 100%. He played football. I played football. I wrestled. He wrestled. For better or for worse, I maybe influenced him to use tobacco products.
Okay. So he did kind of emulate you a little bit.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah. And then so just real quick, because you mentioned Los Gatos, right? So
Right.
I remember growing up in the Bay Area, especially the South Bay. Los Gatos was a dominant team in sports. They were, they were like the cream of the crop. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you played sports at Los Gatos when you went there. Yeah. What was that like, playing sports for Los Gatos and going to Los Gatos High School?
I would say that it was idyllic. I mean, I was the team captain for all of my sports teams that I participated on in my senior year. I was an all CCS competitor. I got voted most athletic in the whole school.
Wow.
I got a plaque.
I got voted most unathletic in my school.
Right.
So I was the polar opposite.
So yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I would say that I had a very charmed high school experience.
Okay.
Like I basically did whatever I wanted to, and I cut class all the time, and I didn't do my homework, and I just excelled on the athletic field. And then, like I said, I did perform well. So I was like a all CCS competitor in football, league outstanding defensive player of the year and stuff like that. I took second in CCS. I think that had I been more focused on wrestling than I was on football, I think that I probably would have performed better. And then now in retrospect, being that I'm an MMA fighter, I think that had I focused more on my wrestling development, I would be potentially further along than I am now, or more developed. But hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah. And that's very true. So I have a question though. Did you model yourself? Who were like your role models growing up as far as like football players or athletes? Anybody you modeled yourself after?
Well, so like in Los Gatos, for example, it kind of has a small town vibe, and especially within athletics, there are people to look up to. So I remember being in middle school, and then all the middle schoolers would go to the Los Gatos High School football games. So we'd see people perform well, and then like you want to emulate them. Some people that stand out as people that I guess looked up to. There's Trent Edwards. I don't know if you know of him. He played on the Bills. Jared Allen. He was on the Minnesota Vikings and some other teams.
Wow.
Big defensive guy.
I didn't know Jared Allen went to Los Gatos.
He only went for 1 year, allegedly. Yeah, but
he was one of the greatest defensive ends that ever played the game.
Right. Yeah. And then so we used to sit around and like in the coaches. The coach had a film room, so we would like go and look at highlight films from certain teams. And I remember looking at like the 1999-2000 team was legendary because of like all the people who played and how they would blow people out and all this stuff. But there's, in terms of people looking up to as a young person, interestingly enough, Trent Edwards is always, anyone's like, oh man, Trent Edwards, all American kind of guy.
He was good for a while until he got to the NFL. And then I mean, he had some pretty good years. I don't know if it was coaching or if it was what it was, but he was highly touted.
Yeah, he was like the number one recruit in the whole nation.
Yeah.
When I was a freshman, I remember there was like college coaches there all the time. He had been recruited, or like the Elite 11. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like quarterbacks, but every year there's like the top 11 quarterbacks in the nation, high school, get invited to a camp, like a special quarterback camp.
Yeah.
So he was on the Gatorade, the whole deal.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So like you mentioned, you did wrestling, right?
Right.
And I remember you also kind of had like a little mean streak when you were on the football team,
Yeah.
When did you realize that like fighting or MMA was kind of like your niche, or because I mean you played probably lots of sports your whole life, and like you said, you focused more on football. Was that well, there's two questions. When did you realize that fighting was going to be your main thing? Mm-hmm. And did you focus more on football just because of the popularity of football, or was it just because that was your favorite thing to do?
Well, thinking back, right, I first got exposed to like mixed martial arts, or martial arts. Period. I was first exposed to martial arts as a youth. My stepfather, he had this or has a company called South Bay Mortgage, loans and real estate stuff like that. He used to sponsor local ISKA kickboxing events when I was a kid. And then I got to see like this guy, Javier Mendez. I'm not sure if you're familiar with who he is, but he's the coach of the world famous AKA team,
Okay.
Khabib and all these guys. But I saw Javier Mendez fight when I was a youth. And then I was exposed to kickboxing, American kickboxing, as like a grade schooler. And then I always kind of had an inkling to learn how to do these types of things, be aggressive or whatever. And then I would see the UFC tapes like on the bottom row at Blockbuster. I'd go to my dad's house on the weekends and be like, "Oh, can I rent this movie?" And he would let me.
Yeah.
And then so I'd watch the UFC 1, and then I wanted to wrestle or like learn shoot fighting as a middle school kid. And then when I was in 6th grade, that was when I first started playing football. And I remember I used to be a little portly, kind of spoiled, baby.
Yeah.
And so I was playing football, and then Pop Warner, they have weight classes. So I ended up being too heavy to play with the school age kids, my peers. So they bumped me up onto the older team.
Oh, wow.
And then being younger and less developed than the older kids, I took a pounding like all year. And then I kind of developed a mean streak from that in my perspective.
So an adversity kind of became, I guess you could say, a blessing because it made you tougher.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't necessarily consider myself to be like a tough person or a mean person. Like, now that I have developed a greater understanding of myself, I would say I'm very incredibly sensitive.
Okay.
Like my feelings get hurt, and then I get real sad. I guess my feelings get hurt, then I get sad, and as opposed to being sad, then I would rather be mad. Make that person pay for making me sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that I got into martial arts through the videos at Blockbuster, through my exposure, through my stepfather, and then through Pop Warner football is where I learned how to like bully other kids.
Gotcha.
And then I kept bullying other kids all the way till like today. Always still kind of bully people a little bit here and there, but
now you get paid to bully people.
I mean, yeah, but in my experiences now, like anecdotally speaking, trying to overpower people or oppress them, like in a fighting aspect, you're just going to get yourself tired, and you're going to meet somebody who is either stronger than you or has better conditioning than you. I think that there are better ways to go about beating people.
Yeah, mentally is a big one.
Yeah,
right?
Big time.
So, and then the other question was, why did you choose football over wrestling? Were you better at football? Was it just kind of like the most popular sport?
Well, it's interesting because I remember as a kid, right? I was like 14 years old, a freshman in high school. So I played the football season. I was on the Frosh Soft team, and then I was on the Frosh Soft team for wrestling. Freshmen, sophomores, junior varsity, and then after my freshman year, my father died, after my freshman wrestling season, my father died. And then I got, I guess, so to speak, taken under someone's wing. My buddy's friend, or my buddy's older brother, he used to go to the freestyle camp over here at Sunnyvale High School. And so he would take me. So I would meet my friend's older brother, who had wrestled at I think John Hopkins, and then he would take me, and then we would drill with each other at Fremont High School. The Wrestler Nation is what it's called now, I guess, or the Sunnyvale Rams or whatever. But shout out to Sunnyvale High School. That was a big outlet, the wrestling. But then as I got older, like sophomore year, I remember going from sophomore into junior year, I wanted to like be a sophomore brought up on the varsity team. I didn't get brought up as a sophomore onto the varsity football team. I excelled on the Frosh Soft level, performed well, did well. I was the junior varsity league champion, as a 189 pounder my sophomore year. And then I remember junior year, I was doing my football thing, and then a lot of people, like all my peers, weren't wrestlers. Only I wrestled.
Right.
So of my friend group, only I wrestled. And then I remember, kind of wanting to quit wrestling my my sophomore year, skip my junior year of wrestling so I could focus on my football. Mm-hmm. And then the coaches, I went to talk to them. They weren't too pleased with the decision that I had made. They kind of talked me into it. I never had a losing record, but I lost more matches my junior year than I would have preferred. I remember CCS, right? Being a CCS wrestler is like a big deal for a lot of people. So I didn't make the second day of CCS. I think I placed third in league as a junior at 215s. I wrestled 215s as a junior in high school. And then I went to CCS, the sectional championship, and I didn't make the second day. And I was very disappointed. And then I didn't go to any wrestling camps my junior to senior year. I didn't do anything in regards to wrestling. I just kind of paused my wrestling, just geeked out on the weights. I just went straight to the weight room right after school, would stay in the weight room. And my senior year, I guess the coaches didn't even know if I was going to wrestle or not, but I decided to wrestle as a senior, and I excelled. I was a league champion my senior year. I placed second in CCS, which is the sectional championships. I lost to like our rival. It was an interesting story. This guy, Brent Walters, he was like a standout wrestling kid at 189s. I wrestled 189s my senior year. So Brent Walters, he beat me at our dual meet in overtime, and then I beat him at the league championship like a week later. And then another week later, he and I met in the finals of CCS. And, in retrospect, I would say that it's one of my athletic regrets to, maybe withhold my effort, or for whatever reason. I don't know exactly why I lost, but I lost in the finals, in front of all my friends and family, et cetera, choked in the moment. And I think that kind of drove me. Also, tearing my quad at Washington State drove me. Not getting like a scholarship right out of high school drove me to continue. Not performing well enough on the Wolves to be in a starting position drove me into the next thing.
Okay.
So I would say that not hitting the goal is generally what keeps me going.
Yeah. And at least you keep going, because a lot of times people will quit because of that, or they'll say, oh, it wasn't meant to be, or maybe this is God telling me it's not for me, right?
See, I have a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, but 2017, I had this video come out. This guy, Nelson Enrique, self-defined. Okay. He helped me produce this video and a T-shirt. I used to charter buses to fight. I would fight on this Dragon House show up in San Francisco, the oldest and the best. Shout out to Zhang Lao. He hosts these shows up in San Francisco. I was main eventing one of his shows, and then I wanted to really try to hype it up and publicize it and all this stuff. So I went to meet with these guys to develop a video, and I think that the adversity that I encountered, because I perceive like right when I got out of high school, I went to Foothill College, and I pulled my hamstring really bad, and then I quit. And then I went to West Valley, excelled really well, or performed really well. Went to Washington State, tore my quad. Then I came home, which in my perception was quitting. And then, I kind of dwelled on that. And then I was like, oh, you can never quit. Never quit. So we had this never quit T-shirt, never quit. And then I got so tired in that match. That's the only fight I lost. I would advocate watching it. I got nominated for Fight of the Year, NorCal Fight of the Year, but it's a one round wonder. Super exciting, but I lost. I got submitted in the first round after totally caving the dude's head in. Like, just brutal.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about mixed martial arts and MMA. It's like, I mean, unless the guy is out, like there's always like a chance.
You really have to kill them. Like you have to try to kill the dude, which is it's crazy because like say traditional athletics, like when the other person gets hurt, you stop.
Yeah,
you're supposed to stop. But in this athletic type of thing, like I had always like out wrestled people or submitted them. Like my first few fights, I submitted people in the first round or something like that. First or second round would submit them. And then I wanted to get a knockout. I never have it. Well, I have had a knockout. I did knock out a guy one time, but I always wanted to have like a knockout.
Like an epic knockout. Yeah.
And so that was my goal. And then I got so tired trying to do that, just not like being unwilling, being stubborn.
Yeah.
And then also I think if your focus was like on not losing as opposed to winning, or not quitting as opposed to winning, where's your focus?
Right.
Your focus is on quitting. Your focus is on losing. Your focus is on this. It's not on performance. Like, oh, what do I want to do? I want to win.
Yeah.
All I want to do is win.
Yeah. They say, you get what you focus on,
Right.
whether you want it, whether you like it or not. Right.
Right.
And it's true. Like, I mean, especially in a fight, like a sport like fighting, because it's pretty much a lot of mental toughness and confidence and stuff like that. It's a one-on-one sport because like football is a team sport, right? Wrestling is a one-on-one sport too, so you kind of have experience there. And now you're back in a true modern day gladiator, kill or be killed. Like,
yeah, it's indescribable is what I would say. Like, I remember the first time, because I always thought like I was a tough person. I used to get in like street fights and go to the bars and this and that, and I've had my encounters with the law a few times here and there. But when you're in that structured setting where you like go inside and everyone's looking at you and the lights are on you, and then the guy closes the cage,
yeah,
and you're looking across, you're like, wow, this guy's gonna fight somebody.
Yeah.
And then you look around and you're like, shit, he's fighting me. Oh my God. Okay. So it's kind of like the realization. You feel very isolated.
Oh wow.
You're in there all by yourself.
Yeah. So let's switch gears. Let's go back. So now you were at Washington State. You got injured. You were trying with the Wolves. That didn't work out. And I know you got into the fitness game. How did that start?
Well, I was actually let's say I've been a fitness proponent or enthusiast for quite some time.
Right.
I would say like Los Gatos, when I was in high school, was well known as like an off-season type of team. So we would like gather and then run through our plays and have the off-season weightlifting programs and stuff like that. So then initially when I left high school, I went to Foothill College, and then I pulled my hamstring. And then maybe that day, like you're 18 years old, you make kind of quick decisions. So I went home and I dropped out all my classes, dropped them all, like before the penalty. In college, you can drop classes before, you get it on your permanent record or whatever.
Right, before you take them.
Yeah, before you take a W. Dropped without a W. Basically, I just dropped all these classes. My mother was insistent that I be going to school. And so I found out that they had a personal training program.
Oh.
So I was thinking that I would never play football again and that I would just be a personal trainer. So then I joined the Foothill personal training development program, NSCA, the National Strength and Conditioning Association. That was our textbook. So I got certified, or at least had the inclination to become a certified personal trainer at 18. And then by 19, well, interesting. Anyways, so that's kind of what got me on that track. I was wanting to be a personal trainer at 18 after pulling my hamstring at Foothill. Was in the personal training program there. Ended up getting recruited to West Valley College by the coach over there. Finished up my certification between my sophomore and junior year. So basically I took a year off, got some experience like in the school gym doing personal training for people, and then went to West Valley, got all my general education units. Before transferring to Washington State, I became a certified personal trainer. I took the test in Oakland. I actually had to take it twice. The NSC, I took it twice. I went to San Diego the first time and failed by like a 2% or something like that.
That sucks.
Yeah, and then I took it again in Oakland, and then I passed at that time. And then I became a trainer. I got my first training job at Body Firm in Los Gatos. I was 20 years old probably as a certified personal trainer, and had a few clients here and there. And then I was also working at this place called Extreme Fitness and Sports, Chris Morton's Extreme Fitness and Sports, which is a well-known athletic development place here in the South Bay. And so that's basically how I got into it. From there, Body Firm, they required you to have your own business license because they hired you on as a independently contracted trainer. You're like 1099 at the end of the year. So as a 20-year-old, I went and got my business license and started doing independently contracted training at 20. And then when I returned home from Washington, that was when I became like a little bit more, I would say, well, actually, I guess maybe right before I left, I was really, really doing it, like training people 5 in the morning, this and that, and this, the fitness.
Yeah. And so when did you decide I want to open up my own gym? When did that happen?
Well, I decided that I wanted to open up a gym when I was 18, right? I thought I'm going to be a personal trainer, and I know so much about training that I'm going to get myself to the Division I level and then push it as far as I can go, and then utilize myself as marketing material or as a resume builder. So to add credibility, like, look what I did for myself. I'm so credible, I can help everybody else do it. So that's kind of what began it. And it's just been continuous since then. Like, I intend to open another gym eventually. And of course, I'll use my likeness to promote myself.
Yeah, which is smart. You know, they go hand in hand, right?
Yeah, I mean, through fighting or through football, like, I have priceless content. You know?
Look at what I can do, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but you did have. I remember because I watched you on social media, and you had actually opened up your own. Did you own the building, or did you just kind of have that building as a lease building?
2014, I opened up my own facility. IB Strong Strength and Conditioning. I was in a place at 1825 West San Carlos. It's now Fightcraft. Dwayne Ludwig's system is out of that space. It's pretty cool. I know the guy who owns the business in the gym, in the facility. I was renting the space, 4,400 square feet. The guy who owns the building is a pretty cool Korean guy. He's actually a martial arts person too. So we kind of geeked out on martial arts together. I found out that he was he would train troops. He's Korean. So there was American bases in South Korea, and he was commissioned by the United States government to help train the U.S. forces in like hand-to-hand combat and stuff like that. Allegedly, he has 10,000 black belts underneath him.
That's a lot.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
And so I would kind of geek out on, hearing his stories and this and that. So he and I cultivated like a friendly relationship. And it motivated me to go further in my martial arts. Like, initially, I started doing martial arts in 2012, probably shortly after doing the Wolves, the arena football thing. Then I fractured my orbit doing sparring, way back when. And then that was kind of like an eye-opening experience. I'm like, whoa,
literally,
you can get hurt doing this. Wow. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I had to have surgery. I had double vision. If I look around in some angles, I'll still have double vision.
So you still have lingering effects from that,
right? And if you look at my eyes, you can see one is like lazy or lopsided or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I have a lazy eye, and I didn't fracture anything, so it's okay.
Yeah, that you know of. You know of.
Yeah. It's true. I used to hit my head all the time when I was a kid on like stuff, so maybe that's what happened.
But yeah, that was kind of the eye-opening experience. That's kind of what pushed me into opening the gym.
Okay.
Was getting injured. I got injured, and I would say a detour.
Yeah.
And now in retrospect, like now that I have more experience with martial arts, I know that that's actually very common. Like fracturing your face or like breaking your nose, very common.
Who would have thought?
Right.
Yeah, and so I did notice that like your training went to like a different level at one point. Like I was watching when you opened your gym, like you got to, I mean, you've always been like fit, but you got like extremely fit. What triggered that? Was it the mixed martial arts? Did you just say, I need to have more stamina? What happened? Because I remember you went from being like, in shape to like being completely lean, which is like.
So when I was playing football, I got at my largest 250 pounds. I was trying to play fullback and middle linebacker and the arena level or whatever.
Yeah, which fits for football because you need to take the pounding.
You have to have the padding and stuff like that. And then over the course of a few years, I started losing weight to start competing in martial arts. I had my first amateur mixed martial arts fights at light heavyweight, which is 205. I would cut down from like 225 or 220 to go fight at 205. Then I fractured my eye socket And then within 6 months of that, I like went head first into a wall training because I was not done when I first fractured my eye socket. I wasn't done at all. I took the time off and then like rehabbed myself or whatever, tried to get exceptionally strong, and then was training with, I think, like Luke Rockhold, aka is like a very famous gym
Yeah,
for
I know
martial arts.
Rockhold. He's also from the South
Santa
Bay.
Cruz.
Santa Cruz. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I went head first in the wall and then like pinched some nerves in my neck, and then my arm was all chicken, like all weak.
Wow.
And I was like, no way, I can't do it. So I stopped being fit. I didn't do anything, and I remember I just kind of dwindled down, and then one day I kind of like woke up and stepped on a scale. I was like 180 pounds. I was like, what the hell? And then I would say what really motivated me to like get back in shape, because I had opened up a gym and I was in like a coaching. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but a lot of fitness people or gym owners kind of have like this coach's ego, like I've already been there and done that. I don't need to work out anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck that. But that was kind of my perception. Like, oh, I've already been there, done that. I played Division I football. I played arena football. I had amateur fights. I don't need to work out anymore.
Right.
And then I took a long look in the mirror. I realized how unaccountable I was, and like my lifestyle habits were not appropriate. Also, around the same time, my wife got pregnant with our son. He was born in 2015. I opened up the gym around 2014. At the end of 2014, October 2015 is when my son was born. During the time of her pregnancy is when I started to get more healthful. But like I mentioned previous, I used to be a tobacco user or nicotine. I used to be addicted to nicotine. And don't ever start doing that, by the way. Just anecdotally, don't ever do it. So I stopped, being unfit, got back into working out. The gym that I had was not as profitable or as popular as I thought it was going to be upon initially opening. It was a fringe strength training place initially, like powerlifting, strongman, Olympic lifting, and Highland Games. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but I'm a big kettlebell enthusiast.
Okay.
I always have been into like a barbell training or barbell sports. So I wanted it to be like a sanctuary for strength athletes. I found that it's a very high impact activity, as in like your equipment gets damaged, people come to your gym, stay there for like 2 to 3 hours, the toilets get just destroyed. It's just an interesting kind of experience when you find out like, oh wow, I thought that was going to be this way and it was really this way.
Yeah.
And then so I started reaching out to more of my martial arts community. I brought in this guy, Paul Buentello. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
He's famous.
Yeah.
In the martial arts scene. I did some strength training and conditioning for him in some of his most recent fights in Abu Dhabi. He fought in Abu Dhabi Warriors or something like that. And he asked me to spar with him. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go spar. And so I sparred, and then the feedback that I received in terms of like how I performed was that I still was good enough to continue doing it.
Wow.
I was like, okay. Because I remember like I rode my bicycle from my gym and I like was smoking cigarettes, and we went down there and like sparred these active pros, and just in my perspective put it on them.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I was like, okay, well, I should probably take him a little more seriously. Shortly after that, I got a fight on an Indian reservation, like a warm-up fight. That's an interesting story by itself. But I got the warm-up fight, performed really well in the warm-up fight. And then if you really want to test your mettle, clash your swords, you go to AKA over here in San Jose. That's the, cream of the crop. So I got myself, real fit, in shape, went to AKA, did well, in my perspective, did well enough to continue. And then I got my pro debut. I had my pro debut of November 2016, right before I was going to turn 31.
Wow.
So I was 30 years old, turned pro as a mixed martial artist at the Dragon House, I think Dragon House 26. And I fought Neil the Real Deal Johnson.
Wow.
So that's kind of how that whole thing progressed.
So you quit tobacco, let's just say.
I would say that I quit tobacco or nicotine products within the last year.
Okay.
I haven't used it for maybe 6 months.
And you were still fighting and a still great athlete while using tobacco products.
I was chewing.
The chew. Yeah.
I chewed.
Well, I played baseball, so I understand how chew. You know, that's. I mean, if you weren't chewing tobacco, I mean, you were chewing sunflower seeds or something. 'Cause that's part of baseball, right?
Right.
But it's just crazy. How do you feel now that you're not on the nicotine products? Do you feel like more energized, stronger?
Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of part 1. Part 2 comes out next Monday, 9 a.m. Please stay tuned.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out.